ಶ್ರೀನಿವಾಸನ್ ಮಧುಸೂದನ್ ಅವರು ಇಂಗ್ಲೆಂಡ್ ನಗರದಲ್ಲಿ ಆಂಕಾಲಜಿಯ ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್ ಆಗಿ ವಿಶೇಷ ಸೇವೆಯನ್ನು ಸಲ್ಲಿಸಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಆಧ್ಯಾತ್ಮದ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಬಹಳ ಒಲಮೆಯನ್ನು ಇಟ್ಟುಕೊಂಡು ಅಧ್ಯಯನವನ್ನು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಉಪನಿಷತ್ ದರ್ಶನ ಆಫ್ ಆನಂದತೀರ್ಥ ಎನ್ನುವ ವಿಚಾರದ ಕುರಿತಾಗಿ ಅವರು ಉಪನ್ಯಾಸವನ್ನು ಮಾಡಲಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವರಿಗೆ ಮತ್ತೊಮ್ಮೆ ಶ್ರೀಕೃಷ್ಣ ಮಠದ ಪರವಾಗಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಜಿಜ್ಞಾಸುಗಳ ಪರವಾಗಿ ಸ್ವಾಗತವನ್ನು ಕೋರ್ತಾ ತಮ್ಮ ಉಪನ್ಯಾಸವನ್ನು ನೀಡಬೇಕಾಗಿ ಕೇಳಿಕೊಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ.
ಓಂ ಭದ್ರಂ ಕರ್ಣೇಭಿಃ ಶೃಣುಯಾಮ ದೇವಾಃ ಭದ್ರಂ ಪಶ್ಯೇಮ ಅಕ್ಷಭಿರ್ಯಜತ್ರಾಃ ಸ್ಥಿರೈರಂಗೈರ್ತುಷ್ಟುವಾಂಸಸ್ತನೂಭಿಃ ವ್ಯಶೇಮ ದೇವಹಿತಂ ಯದಾಯುಃ. ಸ್ವಸ್ತಿ ನಃ ಇಂದ್ರೋ ವೃದ್ರಶ್ರವಾಃ ಸ್ವಸ್ತಿ ನಃ ಪೂಷಾ ವಿಶ್ವವೇದಾಃ ಸ್ವಸ್ತಿ ನಃ ತಾರ್ಕ್ಷ್ಯೋ ಅರಿಷ್ಟನೇಮಿಃ ಸ್ವಸ್ತಿ ನೋ ಬೃಹಸ್ಪತಿರ್ದದಾತು. ಓಂ ಶಾಂತಿ ಶಾಂತಿ ಶಾಂತಿ. ಯೋ ಅಂತಃ ಪ್ರವಿಶ್ಯ ಮಮ ವಾಚ ಇಮಾಂ ಪ್ರಸುಪ್ತಾಂ ಸಂಜೀವಯತಿ ಅಖಿಲಶಕ್ತಿಧರಸ್ವಧಾಮ್ನಾ ಅನ್ಯಾಂಶ್ಚ ಹಸ್ತಚರಣಶ್ರವಣತ್ವಗಾದೀನ್ ಪ್ರಾಣಾನ್ ನಮೋ ಭಗವತೆ ಪುರುಷಾಯ ತುಭ್ಯಂ. ಲಸತು ಶ್ರೀಮದಾನಂದತೀರ್ಥೇಂದುರ್ನೋ ಹೃದಂಬರೆ ಯದ್ವಚಶ್ಚಂದ್ರಿಕಾ ಸ್ವಾಂತಸಂತಾಪಂ ವಿನಿಕೃಂತತಿ. ಪದವಾಕ್ಯ ಪ್ರಮಾಣಜ್ಞಾನ್ ಪ್ರಣಮ್ಯ ಶಿರಸಾ ಗುರೂನ್ ವ್ಯಾಕರಿಷ್ಯೇ ಯಥಾಭೂತಂ ವಿಷ್ಣು ತತ್ವ ವಿನಿರ್ಣಯಂ. So good evening everyone. Hare Krishna. Before I get started, would like to get blessings from the Swamiji and Anandatheertha Swamiji as well. So I just wanted to remind that we are a group of 16 from England. We run an organization called Hindu Knowledge Academy, which has got well over 2,000 students who learn about Vedanta. So 2 years ago, Anandatheertha Swamiji was the chief guest. He delivered the plenary lecture on Upanishad for us, followed by Keshavarao Tadpatri giving us a Q&A session on the Upanishads. So we were indeed blessed 2 years ago to receive the blessings of Acharya, Anandatheertha. So the title for today's talk is Upanishad Darshana of Anandatheertha. This is a pretty big topic. I've been given 20 minutes or so to wrap up what is the Upanishad Chintana, what is the essence of the Upanishad that is given by Anandatheertha. This is a huge topic, probably takes weeks, years to talk about this. So what I'll do is talk about what is Upanishads, who is Vayu, what are his avatars that is described in the Rig Veda, who is this Vayu or the Pranatatva of the Upanishads. I think this is very important. That is not understood by other schools of Vedanta. Srimad Acharya is the only person who has actually reminded us about Pranatatva that is celebrated in the Upanishads. The next key question is, why did Madhvacharya took avatara in the Kali Yuga? That too in the 12th century. He could have taken avatara in the 6th century or in the 20th century. Why did he decide to take the avatara in the 12th century? That becomes an important point. Then of course, what is the style? Acharya's Upanishad Darshana is a unique style that we would never find in any other Upanishad Bhashyas. His style in which he brings out the evidence-based interpretations of the Upanishads is Acharya's style. And of course, we are all very familiar with the 9 tenets that has been given about Tattvavada by Vyasatirtha in Prameya Navamalika. That is actually the essence of the Upanishads. So we'll close off the session talking about the essence of the Upanishads. So let's go to Upanishads. What does it mean? So there are various ways of thinking about what does the term Upanishad itself actually mean. The easy way of looking at it is Upanishad, sitting close to a guru and then learning the Shastras. That is the easiest, the simplest meaning of what Upanishad is. But then the question is, why do you go and sit next to the Acharya? Why do you want to sit next to a guru? Upanisannam Brahmatattvam Atreti Upanishad. So you want to see the Brahmatattva in the Upanishad. That is why you want to go and sit next to a guru. The following question then is, why do you want to know about this Brahman? Upanishadayati. If you know about Brahman, then your samsara, this disease called the samsara is eradicated. That is the solution. If you know the Brahman, Upanishadana, you destroy the samsara. And of course, upahvara, it lifts you up. When you get the higher knowledge, it lifts you. It takes you at a higher level of consciousness so that you go close to God. You go close and sit next to God. So you raise your consciousness, upahvara, upari, and then you reach Paramatma. And of course, Mahabharata gives a definition of how the Vedas are mapped. It says, Yam Vakeshu, Anuvakeshu, Nishatsu, Upanishadsu cha vadanti satyakarmanam satyam satyeshu samasu. It gives a division of the Vedas. Anuvaks is Rik. Vakas is Yajus. Music, of course, is Sama. Gadya, Padya, Gana. The modes of human communication is compressed in these three forms: prose, poetry, and music. Then, of course, the Nishat is Brahmana and Aranyakas. And then the Upanishads, which is the essence, which is full of pregnant with philosophical concepts. So that is the Upanishad. So the Upanishad portion of the Vedas is enriched in Tattva. It's enriched in philosophy. And of course, we all know that this Upanishad is a key component of the Prasthanatrayis, which is foundational for Vedantic philosophy. So what are the Prasthanatrayis? You have Brahma Sutra Prasthana, 564 aphorism. You have Gita Prasthana, 700 verses. Then you have Upanishad Prasthana. Mundaka Upanishad says, Vak Vivrutashta Vedaha. This Vedas is the breath of Brahman. Breath of Brahman is the Vedas. Vak Vivrutashta Vedaha. Anantavai Vedaha. That breath of Brahman is infinite. Those infinite sounds only celebrate this Paramatma. And as we have seen just a few minutes ago, that essence, the philosophical essence, is discussed in the Upanishads. So by definition, if Vedas are infinite, if Vedas are Ananta, then the Upanishads must also be infinite. Okay? But we consider 108 Upanishads as important Upanishads. And then we distill this further and we say 10 Upanishads are very important for us. The 10 Upanishads that give us various tenets of our philosophy in various sections become very, very important. So, to summarize, Upanishad is the breath of Brahman. I just would like you to hold on to that thought that it is the breath of Brahman. This breath of Brahman is systematized by Vedavyasa at the end of Dwapara Yuga. And we all know the background as to how the Vedas were deteriorated, and Vedavyasa systematized this, and he gave this to his Sishyas, Paila, Vaishampayana, Jaimini, Sumantu, and Rig, Yajur, Sama, and the Atharvana portions of the Vedas were preserved by his families. Then you had, of course, the Upashakes and so on. Much of this is, of course, lost now, but each Shake has got Brahma, Samhita, Brahmana, Aranyaka, and the Upanishads. So if you go to the Rigveda Samhita, this becomes important. If you go to the Rigveda Samhita, as I told, this is the breath of Brahman. The breath of Brahman declares the avatars of Vayu. So this is an important point that we need to understand, that the breath of Brahman declares the avatara of Vayu. How does it do that? You have to go to Rigveda Samhita. Rigveda Samhita, as you know, has got 10 mandalas. The first mandala is called Satarshi Mandala. So in the Satarshi Mandala, 141st Suktam, called as Pranagni Sukta. It has got 13 verses. In those 13 verses, the first 5 verses is called Balikta Suktam. That Balikta Suktam of the Shatarshi Mandala of the Rigveda, the breath of Brahman, declares the avatars of Vayu. And what does it say? Who is the Rishi of this? We should never recite anything without acknowledging the Rishi and the Chandas and the Devata. So the Rishi of Pranagni Sukta or Balikta Sukta is Dirghatamas, Devata is Vayu, Anushtup Chandaha. So I'm going to recite the first 3 verses not in the traditional way, but as a padapata, so that we understand what is it that the Rig Veda is telling us about this Vayu. Balikta tad vapushe dai darshatam devasya bargaha sahaso yato jani yadim upaharate sadate matihi ritasya dena anayanta sashrutaha pruksho vapuhu pituman nitya ashaye dvitiyam asapta shivashu matrushu tritiyam asya vrishabasya dohase dasha pramatim janayanta yoshanaha niryadim budnat mahishyasya varpasa ishanasa shavaso krantasurayaha. The next line becomes important. Yadim anupradivo madvadaye guhasantam matarishva matayati. So when Thiruvikrama Panditacharya in Vayustuti says madvakyam mantrasiddham, so it comes from the mantras. Which mantra? Rig Veda mantra. Okay, so we should never forget that it is the Rig Veda that is giving us the evidence of Acharya, Vayu, Hanuma, Bhima and Madhva. What amazes me is how can other schools of Vedanta not pay attention to these suktas, which is Apaurushaya, which is the supreme source of authority, not even pay attention to this Vayu Tattva. I find it really amazing. So what is the meaning of Vayu? Va, Aya, Vu. Va means strength. Aya means knowledge. U, Utkrishta, Utkarsha. That being which has the highest levels of knowledge and highest levels of and strength among all the jivas is the Vayu Tattva. This Vayu Tattva is celebrated in Balikta Sukta as Mati. Mati means Hanuman. Hanuman Jnanavachi, Jnanavan. Bhima, Pruksho, he is full of strength. But what also he does? Ashapta Shivashu Matrushu. This Bhima is constantly loitering around the 7 scriptures. So Bhima of Dwapara Yuga in Mahabharata, full of strength, full of knowledge. Look at the third avatar, Dasha Pramati. Dasha, Shata, Shahasra, Anantavachakaha. He is infinite knowledge. Purna Prajnaha. That is the meaning. And if you know Purna Prajna, what do you get? You get Ananda. He is called Madhva in the very next name. And we celebrate him as Anandatheertha. So the evidence for Vayu and his incarnation itself comes in the Vedas. It is not a made up story. This is the evidence from Apaurushaya Vedas. What is the defining characteristics of Vayu? Strength and knowledge, which we should never ever forget. This Vayu or Prana is now, his avatars is described in the Apaurushaya Veda, and the Apaurushaya Veda itself celebrates him in all the Upanishads. All the 10 Upanishads, if you read it carefully, it only talks about Pranatatva. Of course, it talks about Narayana, Vishnu, Lakshmi and so on. But after that, among the Jiva Koti, who is the highest, every Upanishad talks only about Pranatatva. What I want to do is do a whistle-stop tour of all these Upanishads that talk about Pranatatva. Prashna Upanishad. Prashna Upanishad is part of the Atharva Veda. And one of the key characters of Prashna Upanishad that the 6 rishis ask the Pippalada rishi is Pranatatva. And one of the rishis, that is Vaidarbhihi, Bhargavo Vaidarbhihi Papracha. He asked Pippalada, who is the highest among the Tattvabhimani Devatas? And Pippalada teaches them and says, look, there was once, he describes an incident where there were once a discussion among the Tattvabhimani Devatas. They said, who is the highest among ourselves? So the Surya said, I am the highest. He moved, nothing happened to the body. The Agni moved, nothing happened to the body. The Chandra moved, nothing happened to the body. Manas moved, nothing happened to the body. But when Prana moved, everything collapsed in the body. Okay? So that incident of the Prashna Upanishad actually illustrates the supreme nature of the Tattvabhimani Devatas, in which Vayu is the highest among the Tattvabhimani Devatas. In fact, Pippalada says this is like a beehive. If your body is like a beehive and all the bees are like your Tattvabhimani Devatas, there is the king of bees, Madhukara Raja. So if that Madhukara Raja leaves the beehive, all other bees have to leave. If the Raja, the Madhukara Raja comes into the beehive, all other slave bees comes in. Such is the nature of the Tattvabhimani Devatas. And when the Tattvabhimanas realize that, they do stuti, 9 stuti of Prashna Upanishad. I would strongly urge each of us to memorize those 9 stutis, because that is the original Vayu stuti of the Vedas. Vayu stuti of the Atharva Veda comes from Prashna Upanishad. Chandogya Upanishad, a very similar incident is described of Pranatatva. Evameva ayam sharire prano yuktaha. Chandogya Upanishad says, this body is held together by this Pranatatva. Of course, Katha Upanishad in Hamsa Gayatri says, Hamsaha Shuchi Sat. Suchi is the purest of beings, which is Pranatatva. Hamsaha Suchihi Sad. Sidati iti Sad. The highest being in whom Paramatma is the Pranatatva, celebrates Katha Upanishad. So I can go on. In Isha Upanishad, for example, Vayu Ranilam Amrutam Ata Idang Basmantam Om Kratosmara Kritapsmara Om Kratosmara Kritamsmara. These are some of the most amazing verses of Isha Upanishad, where Swayambhu Manu's guru is Pranatatva. And he says, you are my messenger, Tasmin Napo Matarishva Dadati. You take all the karmas that I do, you offer it to Paramatma. You are the one, you are going to take me to liberation, says in Isha Upanishad. Mundaka Upanishad, of course, Satya, the word Satya not only means Narayana, Satya is also name of Pranatatva in the Vedas. Satyena Labhyaha, Satyameva Jayati, Jnana Prasadena, these are all key words of Mundaka Upanishad. Jnana, Vijnana is the name of Pranatatva. Jnana Prasadena, unless we get the grace of Pranatatva, we have no scope, we have no future. Prana is our guru, Prana is our messenger. Without his grace, nothing happens, says Mundaka Upanishad. Asau, Vayu, Anilam, Amrutam, Jnanam, Satya, Matarishva, Vishwa, Pavamana, Samira, Akanaswa. These are all the names given to Pranatatva in the Vedas. There's so many names. So what I wanted to say is, it is the Aparushya Veda that talks about the avatars of Prana. It is the Aparushya Veda that talks about the greatness of Prana. So now the question is, if such is the case, why did the third avatar of Prana, took Madhvacharya or Dashapramati as we call it, why did he take avatara in the 12th century, not before or not after? So this is a deep question that we need to think about. The primary reason why Vayu takes avatara in the 12th century, there are 2 reasons. One, of course, we know that Vishnu does not have an avatara in Kali Yuga. He sends his messengers. The prime messenger is Vayu Tattva. When Adharma goes down, he sends his messengers in Kali Yuga. That is the first answer. The second answer, of course, is very important. Over the centuries, starting from the 8th century to the 11th century, Brahma Sutras, Bhashyas had been completely misinterpreted. So Vayu waits until it is completely misinterpreted up to the 21st Bhashya. Now I have to take avatara to make things right. So to correct the Brahma Sutra Bhashya, to write the right Brahma Sutra Bhashya, Prana takes avatara as Madhvacharya. So the Acharya style in the Upanishad, of course, is it's a very scientific, rational, intellectual approach that we do in our daily lives. If you are a scientist, you are a medic, you are an engineer, whatever you are, you look for evidence. That is exactly what Acharya does. And of course, Isha Upanishad says, Avidyamcha vidyamcha yastadveda ubayam sada avidyayam mrityum tirtva vidyayam amrutam ashnute. Acharya will always tell us what is wrong knowledge. Then he will say, what is true knowledge? Knowing what is wrong knowledge is also true knowledge. And knowing what is true knowledge is also true knowledge. What is the benefits of knowing what is wrong and what is right? If you know what is wrong, you get rid of samsara. If you know what is right, you go to liberation. So that is the benefits of doing that critical analysis of the Upanishads which Acharya has given us with regards to understanding the Upanishads. Over the next 3 minutes, I'm going to give you a key understanding of Acharya's philosophy of the Upanishads. So the chief characters of the Upanishads are 3. Brahman, jivas, the material universe. These are the three characters that exist in all of existence. What is that relationship between this Brahman, this jivas and the material universe? That is the Vedantic philosophy. Mayavada comes with its own explanation of what is the interpretation. Vishishtadvaita comes with its own explanation as what is the interpretation. Tattvavada comes with its own rational, critical interpretation of what is the relationship between these three entities. So the first question, of course, is who is Brahman? Acharya tells us Brahman's definition, Atakasmad uchyate brahmeti bruhanto hi asmin gunaha. That entity which is infinitely all-pervasive in time, space and non-material, auspicious attributes, that is the definition of Brahman. And in Brahma Sutra Bhashya, our Acharya has reminded us, Brahma Shabdashta Vishnaveva. Why is Brahman Vishnu? He has given the etymology. There are various evidences for that. But Vishnu, one evidence is Vishal Vyaptav, that which is all-pervasive is Vishnu, which is Brahman. Here is an important point about what is Brahman. Is this Brahman Nirguna Brahman or Saguna Brahman? Mayavada philosophers debate forever. They say there is this zero, useless entity, attributeless Nirguna Brahman. Maya, Upadi becomes Sabala Brahman and Saguna Brahman and so on. But actually Acharya reminds us that there is no evidence in the Vedas that there is a twofold classification of Brahman. Okay. In Shvetashvatara Upanishad he says, Eko devaha sarva bhuteshu gudaha sarva vyapi sarva bhutantaratma sakshi kevalo nirgunashta. Nirguna there means without material attributes. Saguna means infinite attributes. Acharya also reminds us that this Brahman is an independent entity. And he has given us in Tattva Sankhyanā and Tattva Viveka about Swatantram Aswatantram cha Dvividam Tattvam Ishyate. And this independent principle controls everything, including the matter. The matter, it brings forth the creation. What creation? Real creation. It is not mithya, it is not unreal. It is a real creation that Acharya has reminded us. It is not anirvachaniya. Anirvachana siddher aprasiddha visheshanaha. There is no evidence of mithyatva of the universe. The universe is real because Veda Vyasa has said janmadhyasya yataha. Acharya refutes the mithyatva of Mayavada in his Prapancha Mithyatva Anumana Kandana, which is very, very, very important. And finally, of course, we need to know what is the relationship between Jiva and Brahman. Okay? Are Jivas emanated from Brahman or they are independent eternal entities? Acharya reminds us that the relationship between Jiva and us is that of Bimba Pratibimba Bhava. That is independence and dependence. We might have some similarity, but we are totally dependent on Paramatma. So these are the key principles that the Acharya has reminded us. And of course, Prameya Navamalika of Vyasatirtha summarizes the philosophy of the Upanishad, which is what? Shriman Madhvamate Hari Parataraha Satyam Jagat Tattvato Vedaha Jivaganaha Hare Ranucharaha Nichocha Bhavangataha Muktihi Naija Sukha Anubhutihi Amala Bhaktishta Tat Sadhanam Hekshadi Tritiyam Pramanam Akila Amnayaika Vedyo Harihi. This 9 tenets of Tattvavada is wholly inspired by the Upanishads. So on that note, I would like to thank Swamiji for giving me an opportunity to share some of my thoughts, and I would like to pay my obeisance to Sugunendratheertha for blessing us this afternoon. So Hare Krishna.
ವಿದೇಶಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಮಧ್ವಾಚಾರ್ಯರ ಸಿದ್ಧಾಂತ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಪ್ರತಿಪಾದನೆ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನು ಉಡುಪಿಯ ಮಂದಿ ನೋಡುವ ಹಾಗೆ ಆಯಿತು ಅಂತ ಇನ್ನೊಮ್ಮೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ, ಉಪನಿಷತ್ತುಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಮಧ್ವಾಚಾರ್ಯರ ಪ್ರತಿಪಾದನೆ, ಪ್ರಾಣದೇವರ ಚಿಂತನೆ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಬಂದಿದೆ, ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ ಮಧ್ವಾಚಾರ್ಯರ ಉಪನಿಷತ್ ಭಾಷ್ಯಗಳ ವೈಭವ ಏನು ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನು ಆಂಗ್ಲ ಭಾಷೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಮನಮುಟ್ಟುವಂತೆ ತಿಳಿಸಿದ. ಇನ್ನಷ್ಟು ಸಮಯ ಕೊಡಬೇಕಿತ್ತು, ಆದರೆ ನಿರಂತರ ಜ್ಞಾನಯಜ್ಞದ ಉಪನ್ಯಾಸ ನಿರಂತರವಾಗಿ ನಡೆಯುವ ಕಾರಣದಿಂದ ಮಧ್ಯದ ಸೇರ್ಪಡೆಯಾಗಿ ಶ್ರೀನಿವಾಸಾಚಾರ್ಯರಿಗೆ, ಮಧುಸೂದನಾಚಾರ್ಯರಿಗೆ ಶ್ರೀಕೃಷ್ಣ ಮಠದ ಪರವಾಗಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಶ್ರೋತೃಗಳ ಪರವಾಗಿ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳನ್ನು ಅರ್ಪಣೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ, ಪೂಜ್ಯ ಪರ್ಯಾಯ ಕಿರಿಯ ಶ್ರೀಪಾದರು ಅವರಿಗೆ ಅನುಗ್ರಹ ಪ್ರಸಾದವನ್ನು ನೀಡಿ ಹರಸಬೇಕಾಗಿ ಕೇಳಿಕೊಳ್ತೇನೆ.
ಎಲ್ಲ ಕವರ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಕವರ್ಡ್ ಎವ್ರಿಥಿಂಗ್.
ಸಂದರ್ಭ ದೊರೆತಾಗ ಮತ್ತೊಮ್ಮೆ ಅವರ ಪ್ರತ್ಯೇಕ ಉಪನ್ಯಾಸವನ್ನು ಇಡುವಂತೆ ಆಗಲಿ ಕೃಷ್ಣದೇವರ ಸನ್ನಿಧಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂತ ಇನ್ನೊಮ್ಮೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಮುಂದೆ ಪಂಡಿತರಾದಂಥ ನಾಗರ